Your soulmate's marriage confession left people speechless. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because something extraordinary happened. Something nobody planned. Something nobody expected. Something that transformed an ordinary evening into a moment people would remember for years. And listen to this. The gathering seemed completely normal at first. People were smiling, talking, sharing stories, discussing everyday life. The atmosphere felt warm, comfortable, familiar. Nobody expected anything unusual to happen. Nobody expected an emotional confession. Nobody expected a revelation powerful enough to silence an entire room. Yet sometimes the most important moments arrive without warning. Because your heart needs this right now, because life often hides its biggest lessons inside ordinary days. Your soulmate was about to discover one of those moments. And listen to this. For most of the evening, they remained quiet. Not unusually quiet. Just thoughtful. Reflective. Observing conversations. Listening more than speaking. Smiling occasionally. Laughing occasionally. Yet beneath that calm exterior, something was happening. A truth was growing stronger. A realization was becoming impossible to ignore. A confession was waiting to be spoken. Because your heart needs this right now, because some truths become heavier every time we refuse to share them. Your soulmate had carried this truth for a long time. And listen to this. At first, they had no intention of saying anything. They planned to keep listening. Keep smiling. Keep enjoying the evening. Yet every conversation seemed to point toward the same topic. Relationships. Commitment. Trust. Growth. The future. The more people talked, the more your soulmate felt their own thoughts rising to the surface. Because your heart needs this right now, because certain conversations awaken truths we've been keeping hidden. Your soulmate could feel that happening. And listen to this. As the evening continued, someone asked a simple question. A question that seemed harmless. A question people answer every day. The question was, what do you think makes a marriage truly successful? People immediately started sharing opinions. Some talked about communication. Some talked about loyalty. Some talked about patience. Others talked about love. The room filled with answers. Yet your soulmate remained silent. Because your heart needs this right now, because sometimes silence appears when someone is searching for the most honest answer. Your soulmate was searching. And listen to this. The question lingered. Even after other people finished speaking. Even after the conversation started moving on. Even after everyone seemed satisfied with their answers. Your soulmate couldn't stop thinking about it. Because deep inside, they knew their answer was different. Not necessarily better. Just different. An answer shaped by experience. An answer shaped by lessons. An answer shaped by growth. Because your heart needs this right now, because experience often teaches what theory never can. Your soulmate had learned through experience. And listen to this. For several minutes, they said nothing. Yet their thoughts continued growing louder. Stronger. Clearer. More impossible to ignore. Until finally they realized something. If they didn't speak now, they might regret it. If they didn't share this lesson now, they might never share it. And suddenly the decision became obvious. Because your heart needs this right now, because courage often arrives the moment honesty becomes more important than comfort. Your soulmate found that courage. And listen to this. Slowly, they stood up. The movement wasn't dramatic. Yet it immediately captured attention. People stopped talking. People looked up. People became curious. The room gradually became quiet. Not because anyone asked for silence. Because everyone sensed something meaningful was about to happen. Because your heart needs this right now, because authenticity creates a presence people naturally notice. Your soulmate carried that presence. And listen to this. For a moment, they simply stood there. Taking a breath. Collecting their thoughts. Looking around the room. And in those few seconds, the atmosphere changed completely. The casual energy disappeared. The room became focused. Attentive. Curious. Nobody knew what was coming. Yet everyone knew it mattered. Because your heart needs this right now, because important truths create anticipation before they are ever spoken. Your soulmate was about to reveal one. And listen to this. Then they finally began speaking. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Calmly. Honestly. They said, "For years, I thought marriage was about finding the right person." The room immediately became quieter. People listened carefully. Because the sentence felt personal. Real. Authentic. And your soulmate continued. "I thought success meant finding someone who would never disappoint you. Someone who would never change. Someone who would always know exactly what to say and exactly what to do." People nodded. Many recognized themselves in those words. Because your heart needs this right now, because most people spend part of their lives searching for perfection. Your soulmate once did too. And listen to this. After a brief pause, they smiled. Not because the memory was funny. Because they finally understood how much they had changed. Then they said, "Life taught me something very different." The room became completely silent. Everyone waited. Everyone listened. Everyone sensed something important was coming. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful lessons often begin with unexpected realizations. Your soulmate was about to share one. And listen to this. They looked around the room and continued. The strongest marriages are not built by perfect people. They're built by imperfect people who keep choosing growth. The words seemed to settle over everyone at once. Nobody interrupted. Nobody looked away. Because something about the statement felt deeply true. Because your heart needs this right now, because truth often resonates before we fully understand why. Everyone in the room felt it. And listen to this. The more your soulmate spoke, the more emotional the atmosphere became. Not sad. Not dramatic. Meaningful. The kind of atmosphere that appears when someone shares something genuine. The kind of atmosphere that appears when people stop pretending and start being honest. And your soulmate was being completely honest. For perhaps the first time in a very long while. Because your heart needs this right now, because honesty creates connections that perfection never can. Your soulmate understood that now. And listen to this. As the confession continued, another realization appeared. The room wasn't listening because the words were shocking. The room was listening because the words were real. Real lessons. Real mistakes. Real growth. Real wisdom. People weren't hearing a speech. They were hearing a life lesson. A lesson earned through experience. Because your heart needs this right now, because lessons earned through experience carry extraordinary power. Your soulmate had earned this lesson. And listen to this. As they approached the most important part of the confession, the room became completely still. Every conversation had stopped. Every distraction had disappeared. Everyone was focused on a single thing. The truth your soulmate was finally ready to reveal. The truth that had been growing inside them for years. The truth that would leave everyone speechless. And for the first time in a very long while, they felt completely ready to share it. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because after your soulmate stood before the room and shared the first part of their confession, something remarkable happened. Nobody interrupted. Nobody checked their phone. Nobody looked away. The room became completely focused. Every person present felt the same thing. Curiosity. Because they sensed that the most important part of the confession was still ahead. And listen to this. Your soulmate stood quietly for a moment. Not because they were nervous. Not because they had forgotten what they wanted to say. Because they understood the importance of honesty. They understood that some truths deserve to be spoken carefully. Some truths deserve reflection before they are shared. And some truths become powerful because they come from experience rather than theory. Because your heart needs this right now, because the lessons we earn through life often become the most valuable lessons we can share. Your soulmate had earned this lesson. And listen to this. For years, they believed marriage was something people either succeeded at or failed at. A simple outcome. A simple destination. A simple achievement. Yet life gradually taught something different. Something much deeper. Something they never expected to learn. The realization came slowly. Through challenges. Through conversations. Through disappointments. Through moments of growth. Through experiences that changed how they viewed everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because wisdom rarely arrives all at once. It arrives one lesson at a time. Your soulmate had collected many lessons. And listen to this. The room remained silent as they continued speaking. I used to think commitment meant always feeling certain. I thought real relationships meant never having doubts. I thought successful marriages belonged to people who always had everything figured out. People nodded. Many recognized those beliefs. Many had carried the same assumptions. Many had spent years searching for certainty. Because your heart needs this right now, because certainty is something nearly everyone seeks. Your soulmate once searched for it too. And listen to this. Then they smiled softly. A smile filled with understanding. A smile that appeared when someone finally understands a lesson that once felt impossible. And they said, "Life taught me something surprising. The strongest marriages aren't built during easy days. They're built during difficult ones." The room became even quieter. Because those words felt real. They felt earned. They felt true. Because your heart needs this right now, because difficult seasons often reveal the strength hidden inside relationships. Your soulmate had learned that firsthand. And listen to this. As they continued speaking, the atmosphere shifted. The confession no longer felt like a speech. It felt like a conversation from the heart. A conversation everyone was invited into. A conversation about growth. About trust. About becoming better. And people listened carefully. Because genuine honesty is difficult to ignore. Because your heart needs this right now, because authenticity creates a connection that performance never can. Your soulmate was speaking authentically. And listen to this. Then came another revelation. One that seemed to surprise even the people who thought they already knew what was coming. Your soulmate said, "The biggest mistake I ever made was believing love was enough by itself." The room froze. Not because the statement sounded negative. Because it sounded honest. And honesty often makes people pause. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful relationships require more than feelings alone. Your soulmate had discovered that truth. And listen to this. They continued. Love matters. But patience matters too. Communication matters too. Forgiveness matters too. Growth matters too. And the willingness to keep choosing each other matters too. The room remained completely silent. Every person was listening. Every person was reflecting. Every person was thinking about their own experiences. Because your heart needs this right now, because wisdom often encourages self-reflection. Your soulmate's words were doing exactly that. And listen to this. For a moment, they looked around the room. Then they shared something even more personal. Something they had never fully admitted before. Something that represented the heart of the confession. They said, "I spent years trying to find someone who would make life easier. Eventually I realized the real gift is finding someone who makes growth meaningful." The statement settled over the room. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Because those words carried weight. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful partnerships are not about avoiding growth, they're about supporting it. Your soulmate finally understood that. And listen to this. As the confession continued, people began seeing a pattern. Every lesson pointed toward the same truth. Marriage wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about certainty. It wasn't about avoiding problems. It wasn't about creating a flawless life. It was about learning how to move through life together. Because your heart needs this right now, because life is always changing. And meaningful commitment grows through that change. Your soulmate had learned that lesson deeply. And listen to this. The more they spoke, the more emotional the room became. Not because the confession was dramatic. Because it was sincere. Sincerity has power. Sincerity reaches people in ways polished words cannot. And your soulmate was speaking from a place of complete sincerity. Because your heart needs this right now, because truth becomes powerful when it is lived, not merely spoken. Your soulmate had lived these lessons. And listen to this. Then came the moment everyone would remember. The moment that transformed the entire atmosphere. The moment that made every person lean forward and listen even more closely. Your soulmate paused. Took a deep breath. And said, "Marriage didn't teach me how to find the perfect person. Marriage taught me how to become a better person." The room became completely still. Those words seemed to stop time. Because everyone understood them. Everyone felt them. Everyone recognized the truth hidden inside them. Because your heart needs this right now, because the greatest relationships often inspire personal growth. Your soulmate had discovered exactly that. And listen to this. For several seconds, nobody said anything. There was no need. The silence itself became part of the confession. A thoughtful silence. A meaningful silence. A silence filled with reflection. Because everyone knew they had just heard something important. Something worth remembering. Something worth carrying into their own lives. And as your soulmate stood there, they realized something beautiful. The confession wasn't only changing how others thought. It was reminding them how much they themselves had grown. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because after your soulmate shared lesson after lesson, after the room became completely silent, and after every person present found themselves reflecting on their own life, something extraordinary happened. The atmosphere changed. Not dramatically. Not suddenly. Quietly. Deeply. Almost as if everyone instinctively knew that the most important part of the confession was finally about to arrive. And listen to this. Your soulmate paused. Not because they were nervous. Not because they were searching for the right words. Because they understood that some truths deserve space. Some truths deserve silence before they are spoken. Some truths deserve a moment of reflection before they can be fully understood. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful lessons often arrive after long periods of growth. Your soulmate had spent years learning this lesson. And listen to this. The room remained completely still. The conversations had stopped. The distractions had disappeared. Even people who rarely paid attention were now focused entirely on what your soulmate was saying. Because something about the confession felt different. It didn't sound like advice. It didn't sound like a speech. It sounded like wisdom earned through experience. Because your heart needs this right now, because experience teaches lessons that books cannot. Your soulmate had learned those lessons firsthand. And listen to this. For years, they believed marriage was about finding happiness. That seemed obvious. After all, isn't that what everyone hopes for? To be happy. To feel loved. To feel understood. To feel secure. Yet life gradually revealed something deeper. Something they never expected. Something that changed their entire perspective. Because your heart needs this right now, because the deepest truths are often different from our first assumptions. Your soulmate discovered one of those truths. And listen to this. They looked around the room and said, "I used to believe marriage existed to make people happy." The statement seemed simple. People nodded. Most expected the thought to continue in a familiar direction. Yet it didn't. Instead, your soulmate smiled softly and continued. "Now I believe marriage exists to help people grow." The room froze. Completely. Because nobody expected those words. Nobody expected that perspective. Nobody expected a definition so different from the one they had carried for years. Because your heart needs this right now, because growth often matters more than comfort. Your soulmate had learned that lesson. And listen to this. The silence became even deeper. People weren't shocked. They were thinking. Reflecting. Comparing those words against their own experiences. And many realized something surprising. The statement felt true. Growth is not always comfortable. Growth is not always easy. Growth often arrives through challenges. Through misunderstandings. Through patience. Through learning. Through forgiveness. Because your heart needs this right now, because growth is often disguised as difficulty. Your soulmate had learned to recognize it. And listen to this. They continued speaking. Slowly. Carefully. Honestly. The strongest relationships I've ever seen weren't perfect. They weren't effortless. They weren't free from problems. They were built by people willing to keep learning. The room listened carefully. Every word seemed to settle into the minds of everyone present. Because those words carried weight. Real weight. The kind of weight that only comes from lived experience. Because your heart needs this right now, because authentic wisdom always feels different. Your soulmate was speaking authentically. And listen to this. The more they shared, the more emotional the atmosphere became. Not sad. Not dramatic. Meaningful. The kind of emotion people feel when they hear something they know they will remember. The kind of emotion people feel when a truth reaches deeper than expected. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful truths create lasting impressions. Your soulmate was creating one. And listen to this. Then came another statement. A statement nobody expected. A statement that instantly captured the attention of every person in the room. Your soulmate said, The biggest lesson marriage taught me is that love alone is not the destination. Love is the beginning. The room became silent once again. Because suddenly people understood. Love begins a journey. But patience sustains it. Trust strengthens it. Communication protects it. Growth expands it. Understanding deepens it. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful relationships require more than emotions alone. Your soulmate had discovered that truth. And listen to this. For a moment, they looked down. As though remembering every lesson that had brought them to this point. Every challenge. Every misunderstanding. Every difficult season. Every victory. Every moment of growth. And then they said something nobody was prepared for. Something that would become the most memorable line of the entire confession. They said, "The person I married changed." The room became still. People waited. Unsure where the thought was leading. Then your soulmate continued. And so did I. Another pause. Then. The secret wasn't preventing change. The secret was learning how to grow through change together. The room froze. Because those words carried extraordinary wisdom. Because your heart needs this right now, because life guarantees change. The strongest relationships learn how to navigate that change together. Your soulmate finally understood that. And listen to this. Several people appeared emotional. Some smiled. Some stared quietly into the distance. Some seemed lost in their own memories. Because everyone present could relate to growth. Everyone present understood change. Everyone present knew what it meant to evolve over time. And suddenly the confession felt universal. Because your heart needs this right now, because the best lessons apply to everyone. Your soulmate's lesson applied to everyone in the room. And listen to this. The confession continued. Yet now every word felt even more powerful. Not because the words themselves were complicated. Because they were simple. And simple truths often become the most powerful truths of all. Your soulmate said. The strongest commitment is not promising never to change. The strongest commitment is promising to keep growing with each other. The room remained silent. Nobody interrupted. Nobody needed to. The words spoke for themselves. Because your heart needs this right now, because genuine wisdom rarely requires explanation. Everyone understood. And listen to this. As the confession approached its most important moment, something remarkable happened. Your soulmate realized that the lesson wasn't only about marriage. It was about life. About growth. About becoming a better version of yourself. About continuing to learn. Continuing to adapt. Continuing to choose understanding over ego. Because your heart needs this right now, because personal growth improves every relationship we have. Your soulmate had learned that deeply. And listen to this. The room sat quietly. Absorbing every word. Reflecting on every lesson. And everyone sensed that one final revelation remained. One final truth. One final statement that would bring everything together. The statement that would explain why this confession left people speechless in the first place. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because after everything your soulmate shared, after every lesson, after every realization, after every honest word spoken from the deepest part of their heart, the room remained completely silent. Not the uncomfortable kind of silence. Not the awkward kind of silence. The kind of silence that appears when people are hearing something they know they will never forget. And listen to this. Your soulmate stood there for a moment, looking around the room, watching people reflect, watching people think, watching people quietly compare those lessons to their own lives. Because your heart needs this right now, because the most powerful truths do not create noise. They create reflection. Your soulmate had created that reflection. And listen to this. The room felt different now. The atmosphere had changed. Earlier in the evening, people had been laughing, telling stories, talking about everyday things. Yet now everyone seemed focused on something deeper. Something more meaningful. Something more important. The conversation had become larger than marriage. Larger than relationships. Larger than one person's experience. Because your heart needs this right now, because genuine wisdom often applies to every area of life. Your soulmate was about to reveal the final lesson. And listen to this. For years, they believed success in marriage meant reaching a destination. A point where everything became easy. A point where every question disappeared. A point where uncertainty no longer existed. Yet life taught them something different. Something unexpected. Something they wished they had understood sooner. Because your heart needs this right now, because some lessons take years to fully understand. Your soulmate finally understood. And listen to this. They took a deep breath, smiled softly, and said, "The greatest misunderstanding I ever had about marriage was believing it was a finish line." The room became completely still. People listened carefully. Because they could already tell something important was coming. And your soulmate continued. Marriage is not a finish line. It is a journey. A journey of learning. A journey of growth. A journey of becoming. The words settled into the room like a wave. Because your heart needs this right now, because life itself is not about arriving. It is about growing. Your soulmate had learned that lesson deeply. And listen to this. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Everyone simply listened. Because they could feel the sincerity behind every word. The honesty. The experience. The wisdom. This wasn't something your soulmate had read. It wasn't something they memorized. It was something they had lived. Because your heart needs this right now, because lived truth carries extraordinary power. Your soulmate was speaking from lived truth. And listen to this. As the confession continued, another realization emerged. One that seemed to surprise even the people who thought they already understood where the speech was going. Your soulmate said. The happiest couples I've ever met were not the couples with the fewest problems. They were the couples who learned how to face problems together. The room froze. Because the statement felt undeniably true. Everyone experiences challenges. Everyone faces uncertainty. Everyone encounters difficult seasons. Yet some people grow stronger through those seasons. Because your heart needs this right now, because unity is often built during difficult times. Your soulmate had finally understood that. And listen to this. The more they reflected aloud, the clearer everything became. Every lesson pointed toward the same truth. Relationships are not strengthened by perfection. They are strengthened by patience. By understanding. By communication. By forgiveness. By the willingness to keep choosing each other even when life becomes complicated. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful commitments are built one choice at a time. Your soulmate had learned that lesson. And listen to this. Then came another revelation. One that immediately captured everyone's attention. Your soulmate said. I spent years looking for someone who would complete me. The room listened carefully. Many people recognized that desire. Many people had spent years searching for the same thing. Yet your soulmate continued. Eventually I realized something. No one was supposed to complete me. I was supposed to continue growing into myself. The room became silent once again. Because those words carried weight. Real weight. Because your heart needs this right now, because the healthiest relationships are built by whole people continuing to grow. Your soulmate had finally discovered that truth. And listen to this. Several people looked emotional. Others nodded quietly. Some smiled as if they suddenly understood something important about their own lives. Because the lesson reached beyond marriage. It reached into every relationship. Every friendship. Every family bond. Every commitment. Because your heart needs this right now, because growth improves every connection we have. Your soulmate had learned that through experience. And listen to this. As the evening moved closer to its conclusion, your soulmate reflected on everything they had shared. The mistakes. The lessons. The challenges. The victories. The growth. And suddenly one final realization appeared. A realization that brought everything together. A realization that explained the entire confession. Because your heart needs this right now, because every meaningful journey eventually reveals its purpose. Your soulmate had found the purpose. And listen to this. They looked around the room one final time. Then they said, "The greatest gift marriage ever gave me was not certainty. It was growth. It taught me patience. It taught me humility. It taught me understanding. It taught me how to listen. It taught me how to forgive. And most importantly, it taught me that love is a choice we continue making every day." The room became completely still. Not because people were shocked. Because people were moved. Because everyone understood. Because your heart needs this right now, because some truths feel timeless the moment we hear them. Your soulmate had spoken one of those truths. And listen to this. For several long moments, nobody spoke. Nobody rushed to respond. Nobody wanted to break the silence. The confession felt complete. The lesson felt complete. The message felt complete. And everyone knew they had witnessed something meaningful. Something genuine. Something unforgettable. Because your heart needs this right now, because authenticity leaves lasting impressions. Your soulmate's honesty had done exactly that. And listen to this. Before sitting down, they shared one final thought. A thought that would remain in everyone's mind long after the evening ended. The thought was: the strongest marriages are not built by people who never struggle. They are built by people who continue growing, learning, forgiving, understanding, and choosing each other through every season of life. The room remained silent. A thoughtful silence. A grateful silence. A meaningful silence. Because there was nothing left to add. The truth had already been spoken.